got fired.
On the roof.
Government building.
I just seen Glenn a few minutes ago. And he was driving down. He's talking about the smoke and the fire, I guess. That's why.
You can't be leaving the fire.
No.
Anytime.
Recording. Mitchell, Kristen Miller, City of Mitchell's personal meeting room.
Why am I restricted from sharing?
Nope, I have animal contact.
So.
I don't want my. My dog is big enough to get into it.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, we are at our April 4th retreat. We're starting at 4:30. It's just moving forward, saying moving forward because of a time conflict with our Lions Club. So we need to make sure and keep on task with what we have on our agenda items. If we could have introductions from everybody, please.
Haley Ferguson, citizen.
Grant Waller, citizen.
Kristen Miller, city clerk.
Catherine Cook, city council.
Ken Ferguson, city council.
President.
Patrick Carroll, citizen.
Stephen Trick there. Did we want to,
He's here, so let's,
he's here. Okay.
Yeah.
Sign in or-
yeah, I get, nope, I got the list right here. Wherever you're comfortable.
Wait, where's the?
What's best for that? It'll come to you.
And well, the closer you are to it.
Close enough? Hello, council. Thanks for letting me talk about something. About an potential alternative revenue stream. A number of years ago, I was sitting with Scott, he was Ron DeGroff's predecessor from Business Oregon. Scott passed away. Anyway, we were discussing, this was, years ago, we were talking about how to develop some other revenue stream because the property values and the taxation values in the city of Mitchell aren't really high enough to really beef up the city budget. Which isn't like, that's not necessarily bad, it's just math. And so what we talked about was the potential of a local sales tax. And so we sort of kicked this idea around, and then I talked to I was on the some board with the county, and we talked about if that was even a possibility in the state of Oregon. I met with the Department of Revenue, who handles all the tax stuff, and they said, yes, nobody in Oregon yet at that time had a local sales tax, but they said it's possible. What sort of kicked off the idea was this thought of, like, what if you had a membership card, if you were in Mitchell, and I go to get a cup of coffee, and it's it's $3 for me, but if you don't have the membership card, it's $4. And that extra dollar goes to the city, right? Well, that's a pretty difficult thing to do. And so we talked about this sales tax and figuring out some way that the locals wouldn't have to pay the sales tax. Department of Revenue, Oregon State Legislature, we don't have the means to exclude certain citizens from a sales tax. So if you have a sales tax in the city of Mitchell and you live in the city of Mitchell, the law doesn't allow you to exclude someone from that sales tax. But it doesn't exclude the city from returning some money to the citizens out of that sales tax, right? So the thought is, we have so many people that come to the city as tourists with expendable income. Everybody pays a sales tax on food and drink. And then at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year, the city figures out how to kind of pay back the citizens for any sales tax they would have paid. Okay, so that's the idea, just like a kicker check type of thing. So I've spent some time kicking that whole thing around, and there's a couple ways to do it. One is you could have a local sales tax, a local sales jurisdiction, and then you could say anybody in a certain area, let's say the Mitchell zip code, would get a kicker check out of those sales tax revenues. So let's say I'm gonna run some numbers real quick here. So go with me on this. Let's say we've got in food and drink in the city of Mitchell, let's say we've got $1.5 million in annual sales of food and drink. Right? And let's say we want that to be a 3% sales tax. So that's 0.03. So that'd be $45,000. Okay. So that's just based on, I'm just throwing a number out there, $1.5 million of revenue on food and drink.
So no lodging.
No lodging. This is not lodging. This is just food and drink. So
That includes the store.
food and drink. Anybody inside so you,
Prepared food or not.
right.
Right.
Yep. So food and drink, basically all the stuff the tourists are buying, right? Like anything from candy bars to beer to nuts but no, it wouldn't actually be it wouldn't be on hard goods. It would just be food and drink.
Food and drink.
Yeah. So restaurants, you get the idea, sort of the tourism base. So that's a $45,000 that would be a gross income off of that sales tax. So then I started thinking, okay, well, how much money would I get back based on me spending money in Mitchell? I spend as a citizen, one person. Well, as a household of two people. Household of two people in say the Mitchell zip code. So I spend about $400 a month at Gabe's store on groceries, plus some stuff at Tiger Town. It's $4,800 a year times 0.03. So I would end up paying about $150 a year in sales tax. Household of two. Maybe, household of four, you're going to spend more. You get the idea. So
Some people may not spend any.
some people may not buy anything in Mitchell, and that's fine. So then we take, let's say our baseline is like $150. Let's say the end of every year, you get $150 back, because that's about what you're going to spend. I mean, that's what I would spend, but I don't know what the average is. There is roughly 160 households in the zip code, I think. I think it's roughly 160 households. Like when the school does a newsletter, they send out 190 newsletters to the zip code.
Or 160.
Yeah, 160 households.
In our zip code.
In our zip code.
There are quite a few boats up down.
Yeah. So what do you do the math on that, you've got, say, $150 goes to every household. Say there's 160 households, well, there's $24,000. It's like that. We just lost essentially half of that sales tax, which this is where it starts to get kind of fascinating.
Wait, sorry,
Go ahead.
go back. You lost me.
Yeah,
How did we
go ahead.
lose 24,000?
We're the people.
Oh, because you're talking about giving it
Yeah,
back.
the people in the zip code are paying it, and we want to give it back to them because it's like, we shouldn't punish the people who live
But
here.
nothing's 100%,
Right.
so we know we're not getting 100% back.
Well, some people will get more, because whoever doesn't shop in Mitchell, they're gonna get a $150 check, let's say. People who shop more on food and drink. Are, right, there's gonna be winners and losers, right? So,
It balances. as an
yeah, it could
average.
balance out, right? So there's some winners and losers. Another way, so anyway, so what this does is it allows the city to say, we still want you to shop in our city. We're not gonna punish you for shopping in our city. We're gonna tax you, but there's a means, a mechanism to get that tax revenue back. Even if you didn't spend money in tax. Right? So an example is, and not a very good example, but up in Wasco County, where all the windmills are. People get a kicker check from the utilities,
Mhm,
because every time those blades spin, they're generating money.
mhm.
Right? So people who live there, and they kind of want to recruit people to live there, right? You get a kicker check. It's kind of like living in Alaska. Right? It's so miserable. Please come live here. We'll give you money. So that's the general idea behind it. We don't want to punish the people who live here. Don't necessarily want to tax them. The state law says you have to tax them. The best we can do is refund or some form of refund. As I think more about this thing, there's going to be other costs involved. Like it would be unfair to the businesses to say, we want you to collect this tax from your customers and not give them some sort of administrative fee. We're asking them to take on a new level of work, potentially having to replace their point of sale systems. Like, I know, I talked to Gabe about this. Gabe would have to change his point of sale system to something that would be able to sort out what was taxed, wasn't taxed, create a record that. And now we've got so who's gonna verify that the store isn't, fudging their numbers, or not that Gabe would. Gabe, if you're watching this, I'm not accusing you. Yeah, so now we've got administrative fees on both ends, right? Like there's an administrative fee now at the business to handle that tax money and hand it over to the appropriate authority. And then there is some sort of an audit that has to take place in order to receive that money at a city level. So I don't know if it's clerk's job or if it's the Department of Revenue that does the audit. Who does that? I don't know. And then, like, who's eligible, right? Like, we got to create some rules around who's eligible. Do you just have an address in our zip code? Is it, do you live here full time? Are you living with someone else and you don't have a household, but you are another family? Because we have that. Like when Michael and Timmy were living in the apartment behind our house. How many checks would have gone out? One or two, and so there's all these questions that need answered. And I'm not saying it's bad. I just want to be really, really clear about the good and the bad. The potential good and the potential difficulties that this kind of thing would bring on.
Right, but it is a doable source of revenue,
It is a doable source of revenue.
which we don't have.
Currently.
Sitting there.
ultimately,
Even if it's 10 to 12 to $15,000, it's
Right.
10, 12, $15,000 more than what we're getting now.
correct.
I do believe earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, this eliminates the TLT tax.
I had introduced the idea originally thinking of removing the lodging tax. Yeah, that was originally, it was like, okay, well, if we had a sort of combined lodging, food and drink, sort of whatever that is. I mean, we're gonna call it, technically it's a tax. but- Are you allergic to taxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
You made my head swell. I tried to relieve.
So yeah, I mean, it could replace the lodging tax,
Isn't that state mandated,
But-
but we have to have TLT thing?
but the lodging tax, I mean, I don't know. That's another thing we'd have to decide is like, if we say we're gonna do our own lodging tax. I think this,
That
The state says that.
kind of puts us back.
right,
I think the state has. That's why we have that lodging tax, and so the state works.
right, they get a percentage.
So I don't know if we can just get rid of it. And the state just end up, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's something.
I don't know, because I think you can have a local lodging tax that's not part of the state lodging tax, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I don't know. Prior. Yes,
Because
See, um, the possibility
right,
is that then we have people coming to council and accusing others of manipulating that funds, talking about, oh, you can't be opening up anything without
right,
business, which, I mean, that's all supposed to be public records anyway.
and or if they don't want to start paying, then we have to.
well, now you gotta go after it, right, right,
That creates a whole different.
right.
Yeah.
I know, I'm pointing fingers.
I don't know what people charge in town. Somebody could come, stays in town, they pay $100 a night.
Yep.
That doesn't, and that, that's your, and you got your lodging tax on that. But those people may not come to town and spend $100. And just, on food and drink and that. I think getting rid of the lodging tax, it has a higher income base. I can't see getting rid of the lodging.
So the lodging tax has, I mean, it's a 5% tax, right? And the average spend for lodging is, I mean, it's over $100, right?
Mhm.
So. But there's also some pretty big restrictions on that. Was it like 25%, or only 20% can go to the general?
It's 30%,
30%
depending
was
on when you started your
right,
fund, and if
right.
it was after that grandfathering period, then it was a different percentage.
So there's, I mean. If, the lodging tax. I mean, it has its purpose too, like it's designed to create a marketing and advertising. Function in order to promote tourism to this area. I mean, that's why they want you to take so much of that money and either give it to a chamber or some other entity. That's going to promote your region, because ultimately it's going to do you good. It will ultimately boost your sales in lodging, and every time I'm sure we've gone over this before, but every time you have someone stay a night, they spend quite a bit more money in town. If they stay 2 nights, the number goes, goes up to that. So lodging is it's a big part of what's generating revenue during the summer. And during the winter too, to some degree.
Revenue for who?
Well, it's deriving gross revenue for the people who have lodging establishments, but it is bringing in a small amount to the general budget.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean,
There's a way to keep the TLT, that, the bread and butter.
Yep.
and work this into the other establishments that get inundated with the tourists during, right, year round, basically, we get tourism year round, but
So my, I guess, like the. And I know we're sitting close, so you could really take a swing at me if you want to. After thinking this whole thing through. I think it's a bad idea. Yeah, I know. And what I have a couple of reasons why. One is like politically. Talking nightmare here, right? Because you're asking the businesses to now collect money and just give it to the city. The businesses are the ones that are risking all their finances and their efforts to have a business. And then just saying, well, you did such a great job of building a business, we'll take an extra 3% of your sales. Like that. That's a tough pill to swallow for a business owner, right? So that's one part of it. The thing that stood out to me the most is we're talking about a tourism-based sales tax, right? Because I mean, that's ultimately what it is. It's a
Yeah.
tourism-based sales tax. We're reinforcing the idea that tourism is kind of our bread and butter at the moment. We don't have, I mean, ranching definitely helps. And Gabe's done a great job of building up inventory to help those ranchers stay here. But ranches don't affect our community the same way that they did 20 years ago, even maybe even 10 years. We are in a tourism-based economy. And I know it's a longer term position to take. But the efforts that are going on to get that golden triangle. And even if you just had a dry camping RV section up by the airport, put in a gravel road, mow the grass. I don't know, maybe even put solar power out there. I don't know, just dry camping. We have a chance as a city to participate in that tourism-based economy as a partner to our businesses, instead of saying, great job on the tourism thing, we'd like to take 3%. There's a great potential here to probably collect about the same amount of money and not have all of the administrative costs, not having, trying to do, because it would take a huge marketing effort to get the folks in the city of Mitchell to understand that you're going to pay 3%, but you're going to get it back. Because when they hear 3% tax, there's no more discussion.
right, but which one would be easier to swallow, a 3% sales tax where you get your money back, or 3% levy where you don't get your money back?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that too.
That's two different types of
Right.
spending.
We're generating revenue. We're
Right,
just talking about generating
I know
revenue.
it's two different types, but still, I mean, we're all trying to
Trying to get money.
figure out a way for the city to get money besides, nickel and diming it every month to.
So I think you had a,
If I was tourist, I came to Mitchell and found out there's a local tax. Next time I came to Mitchell, I'll make sure I didn't want to buy anything from the city.
yeah, and
I mean, they'll bring their food with them, they'll bring whatever they need with them. And they won't buy in the city because they don't want to pay that tax.
Yeah.
I mean, I go somewhere else. If I need, use the store, I wanted to eat somewhere, I could go to Mitchell for 3% tax. I go somewhere else.
I mean, fortunately, we have people somewhat captive. You've come to see the Painted Hills. You're already here. Okay. I mean, it's kind of like Leavenworth, when you go to Leavenworth, Washington, right? Do they,
Yep.
I mean, like.
Yep.
That's right. Anyway, you have a question.
I have two. So
Yep.
one, it seems like if anybody was interested in moving forward with it, that you do it countywide and ask the county to take on those administrative things.
That was my next point. Thank you.
And
Take it.
yeah, because they have more teeth, they have more resources, they have a lot more everything, and it's a lot easier to put those boundaries countywide.
Right.
And you're not being
You're not singling out.
singling out people and things. It's just everybody in the county is doing this thing. To the second point is that we were on Mount Hood and went to go buy something. They asked us if we were locals. We said no. Steve asked why. And he goes, because there's a tax.
We'll charge you, no, he said we'll charge you like 10 cents a gallon less if you're. Wow.
So it was on gas.
Yeah.
So you're on Mount Hood. You're on Mount Hood. What are you gonna do?
Right,
You're
know?
not gonna be able to go.
yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't Ashland, isn't there another city in Oregon that has-
We can't do that here.
I mean, I understand the deterrent, but I mean. If we have the ability to go travel someplace. Stay at a tourist destination, Enterprise, Wallowa, the coast, wherever. Is 3% really gonna deter you from not going in and buying? You know, $100 is $3.
Right.
If you, I mean. No offense against anybody, but. Maybe you should reconsider going on that vacation.
Well, and that's,
Because if that $3 is gonna deter you from shopping in that store where you can just walk down the street and around the corner. Then you gotta plan ahead, like, well, I'm leaving Pineville, I'm gonna save that 3% by loading up my RV. With 200 pounds of groceries, which until it's gonna take my gas mileage from 10 gallons to 7 gallons.
Yeah.
You pencil it out, you're not gonna buy.
And my question.
You got it, yeah, I mean.
no, Nope.
Because I've heard, I haven't been there for a long time. But
Yeah.
I've heard that there is one already that's been established in.
in Ashland, and there may be, which is,
You're local.
right,
Driver's license.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know whether it's a sticker, I don't know what it is, you don't get charged for that.
I think Ashland does it because it's so close to the border, because people come across from California to do all the shopping.
Shakespearean Festival, yep.
experience. Right. And as does the Painted Hills.
Yeah.
You know, and, I mean, most people are used to the sales tax. I will say, though, that if there was a chance to move forward on something, it really should be at the county level. Because it cleans up a lot of the issues.
Yeah, the personal, that's such a small.
Yeah, you know, I mean, right. You know, so, and then they can, you know, there's more input, which is nice. It's a little more democratic, I guess. In that more people from the county get to have some say about it, because honestly, if the city says we're gonna do a sales tax, I mean, a lot of people who shop here they don't get a say in that. Because they come from outside the city.
Right, and if you do it by county, you have a bigger check at the end of the year.
Well, there's that, yeah. And it also stabilizes it, you know, and there's a couple ways you can do it. You could say the average spend is gonna be X, or you could say, kind of like the state does, we're gonna collect X amount of dollars. If we get over this, then a certain percentage will go back to the people. You know, what I mean, so you could do that. You could say countywide, at the end of the fiscal year, we gather,
Fluctuating rate.
yeah, we gathered $60,000, and so you get whatever. Yeah,
But you don't have to have a lodging tax in order to have this, so I think that's why he was saying food and drink, you could also keep your lodging tax.
Government.
yeah, oh, I see what you're saying. They're classically anti-tax. Yes. Well, and we are, I mean, to be honest, we are in a classically anti-tax part of the state. You know, I mean,
Well, nobody likes tax, but again,
yeah,
we
and
need we need an aid revenue, so a new revenue, so something to ensure that the streetlight's gonna be on in 5 years, things like that.
Right.
So maybe we could do some homework and if people are interested and if somebody, you know.
I want
wants
to
to
say,
go-
I want to say Hood River has one too.
So I'll do some digging around too. And I'm happy to come back on this. But I do think that this does give us the opportunity to say, we recognize as a city that tourism is a thing. And it might be the opportunity for us to say to Senator Bent's people and Senator Murphy's people, yeah, actually, we're interested in that piece of property because that is a way for us to develop a long-term revenue stream based on what we know is, we've already done the market research, right?
Yeah.
We know people are coming here.
Yeah, there's some things I'm out there.
Yes, I don't know if we want to go totally up on that, but I mean, I'm open to it.
Well, it's 5 o'clock, so we got to
An hour and.
an hour-ish.
40 minutes.
You got other things to talk about too.
And we have the Lions Club, we have to be down.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though they just come in here and sit down.
So I would like to hear what you have to say about that, but
Are you, your concern is the triangle?
Yeah, very simple, just throw this out for everybody to hear. Is the power lines that go through it at the angle and whatnot.
all right,
So that means that there's already gonna be, I think, when they do those power line things, there's 100-foot automatic.
Easement.
Easement, and then plus those easements, then there's like another 50 feet off
Right.
of that
right.
without anything, so.
Which we can't do anything with.
So I'm just saying, so now we just stretched that triangle of property that you can't do nothing with now. At 300
Right, I see what you're saying.
swath,
We're
100, yeah,
100,
200,
yeah,
200 feet swath. At an angle. to the next. Just thinking
That is good.
That is a good
Never-
point, but
Because you can't do anything under, or
Can you, is there a lease?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no apartments.
But no,
unless you.
Underground.
Funding to put them underground. Maybe,
Yeah, it's a good point, yeah.
that is.
Then maybe you could look at the committee or a group that is get together and say, go ahead and do other activities.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just kind of do some research
Or maybe
and
we should
report
figure out
back.
whether we can, and put it out, in that.
Yeah,
You know, for this, that part of the property, figure out,
So-
how to go ahead and level it out, do dry camping in it and put a.
is there still a land acquisition committee or has that been disbanded?
It's been, she's it.
Okay, if it's, yeah, if it's worthwhile,
Yeah.
I'm happy to be appointed to that.
Meaning. Put electric in there. You know, and we'd be feeding off those other electric lines to get the electric in there anyway.
No,
But
so.
yeah, and they said we
You
could
can't
put,
tap into high power lines. Yeah, they'd have to create it, because I think the one's kind of talking about is a high power line bringing power to our city where,
Okay.
yeah, they just refurbished the whole thing.
So there's a step down somewhere.
but there is power there, so we
Yeah.
don't need to pull power, just need to have them create a substation to
we
take
do,
it from 80,000 volts to usable.
And I think that's what I like about it there is that a lot of the infrastructure is,
There.
it's already there.
Yeah,
yeah, we can put gravel roads in, you know.
And during hunting season and so I think, because I mean, we have people all the time that are like, can we park in your parking lot? Just because they want power for a little bit, you know. Anyway,
thank you.
I'd love to talk more about that.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for
So
listening.
did I hear you correctly, Pat, when you said you want to be reappointed to the land acquisition committee?
That is correct. If the committee would,
I will appoint you at our council meeting. Thank you.
let me
sir.
strike that one from the tape so July doesn't see it here.
Just in case we needed to draw it out. Hear all of my thoughts combined. It is a big focus. I wasted my opportunity.
Well, I knew if you would have brought your easel, you
I
would,
would've-
that would have been important.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Pat.
Pat.
Do you have
Thank
any other ideas for other sorts of adjustment revenue? things like that?
Okay.
Feel free to.
Okay.
All right.
So I have been looking into enterprise zones and urban growth area, urban growth,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't bring the book with me. Urban, what growth boundary?
The enterprise.
No, enterprise zones and the urban, it's an economic. Sorry, so an enterprise zone, I don't know if people are familiar, it's like where you,
Fossils.
go ahead.
No, I'm just letting everybody know, Fossil is considered an enterprise zone, which allows businesses to come in at no tax
3 to 5 years.
for 3 to 5 years.
So on the economic development portion, but then this other one, when you restructure, I can't think of the name now, you restructure a zone to rehabilitate. If you guys decided, Main Street, we want to, make it all commercial, you would restructure that to where it opens up funding. And
We're talking TG,
TGM.
this-
that changes our code.
Okay,
So they just look at our code. Go ahead, I gotta look up the name before I,
Okay, so under our revenue, we went to our land use application fees. With businesses or people buying up land and doing either housing, things like that. There's been, the court has a more accurate number, but 3 to 5 people within the last year have come to the city for zoning, land, anything to do with the land use application fees. And every time somebody comes to the city with one of those, the city is losing money. Because it's just not as simple as a $40 fee covers the cost. Or whatever the fees are, the city's losing money each and every time. You multiply that out 3 to 5 times in just the last year. We're $600 to $900 in the hole.
urban renewal programs. There's a LOC training May 4th on Zoom from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or May 4th,
May the 4th be with you.
6 to 8 p.m. I will have it down here. The person has 25 years of local government planning and urban renewal experience. And I've also contacted the Urban Renewal Economic Association. They charge $250 a year to be a member. And I asked if because it goes based on population, and they didn't have anything for under 1,000 people. And so I asked, hey, we're just a town of 100 people, 36. Do you have any discounts or student rates or anything like that? And they said no, but they would give us a trial for 1 year at $100. So if we're interested in that, that would, you go down. If we're interested in seeing, what benefits there are, and helping maybe come up with an urban renewal area, which is you would classify, like I was saying, Main Street, maybe you just want to make that all commercial. It doesn't mean that you kick people out in that. It just means that it opens up different funding from other state and federal agencies in order to rehab a place. Or let's say you wanted to do Huddleston Heights and you wanted, maybe having this planning period, and then when TGM gives us, what codes that we can implement, maybe that's a whole residential, district where we are doing, townhouses and condos and apartments. And, maybe that's a way to kind of bring in some different and better housing.
Is there a time that we like this $100 thing?
For a year.
Tax sensitive?
No,
So we can bring it up at next council.
Yeah, we can't make any decisions here. I'm just letting you
I
know.
just want you to read them.
Yeah,
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. So I did print off some material. I'm happy to forward stuff to you guys if you want to read about urban renewal. So the enterprise zone, Fossil classified themselves as an enterprise zone, and it helps to encourage non-retail businesses to come and have employees.
Not retail.
Like Facebook.
Like
Non-retail, no
what, like
restaurant.
what Prineville did for Facebook.
Oh. So you can't be a restaurant, it's gotta be like a manufacturing.
Something.
Is that a customer service down per se? Correct.
And what they did was they just classified their whole city as one. They didn't have a specific area of fossils, just the whole city. So I don't know if that's just what shows on the map or if they, have, certain streets and but so if somebody, is a, fish hatchery or something, they could, roll up in Fossil and reap some property tax benefits.
Because I thought that was impossible itself. I thought it was just their business, like their business.
The map shows the whole city. But I mean, that's just an example, so I don't know, I'm just bringing up initial conversations, so the economic portion of two different ways, one to bring jobs, and then other is, other sources of revenue for doing the things that we want to do. That opens up other money. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
So back to our land use application fee.
Still all need to be required.
Do you have one from our?
I've. Yes.
So,
It's basically $30 with a $50 deposit on the larger like partition
right,
things.
so. Well, I'll pass this around, everybody take a look at it, basically, we're like at $30 for. Hey, forgot we had that.
The Reedsport one, obviously they're a bigger city. And this has their whole cities, things that we don't even use.
Because we're at $40 right now.
30. So if somebody puts in, let's say, even a minor partition application, the amount of time just spent on the application itself is, and the paper you're printing and the copies and the emails and things like that, it depends on the person, because sometimes people will submit an application and it's incomplete. And so then you're having to get a hold of other people, and then you're, trying to coordinate with the floodplain manager, and then you're trying to coordinate with Wheeler County, and then there's a lot of moving parts in that. So I feel like, like maybe $200 for applications. And then if it's something that needs to go to an engineer, they should have, maybe like 500 or 750 deposit. Or maybe just actual cost, maybe a deposit plus actual costs. And then maybe a overhead. So You know, if it's 5 hours of my time plus, 15% overhead or something like
Yeah,
that,
because this can't break even.
right? You need to make a profit. I mean, like a plan review, this is for commercial, a plan review is 25% of total plus 12% of total fee.
Plus 12%.
25% of total plus 12%. So 25% of total fee plus 12%, yeah, but that's just to review it. Liquor licenses are $100 new or a $35 renewal. The utility application, you guys asked me to create a form for Gabe because there wasn't one when he asked to have a meter for the RV. And so I created that application and we never attached a fee to it. So it's just been for free. So at the very, least a utility application. fee.
Baby step.
I mean, I think like $50, because it is for all different utilities. So somebody wants to put underground electricity in, that's a utility application. Or,
Other than also. We just went through the electric company session. And we had paid. Because we had put down in the positive, and I think we were $1,200 to $1,500. And we had to dig the ditch. Had to lay the pipe, they went ahead and strung it themselves, but we had to lay the pipe in there, but, and then we had to cover it up.
right, but I just had somebody come to me and ask for a city sign off for being able to put power lines underground. So I don't know if the power company has changed policy or what, but they need something from the city. Verifying that, yes, you own this property, the city has jurisdiction, it is within the correct dimensions in that where, rights of way are, there's more to it than just, because if you're not giving that stuff to the utility company, they might start digging on somebody else's property, not knowing it. I don't know what you have to submit with that application, because the power company doesn't have jurisdiction.
Like when I got power in, I got some time. But still. You run the power to wherever they just run, like we all know, they know where the power property reach. And then once you're at your property, then I dug all the trenches, laid the conduit, but still there was no, but we still had to get a permit. Through triangle. For.
This is essentially a permit. Yeah. This is we're just calling it an application fee with,
Oh, so I wasn't.
it's not permit.
So yeah, absolutely.
Like the gentleman across the street from us, what did he do?
Septic.
A septic permit, which falls under,
Well, they actually have the forms for you to sign off for septic.
oh,
And it's a similar process because DEQ does not have jurisdiction. They want to know that you've checked all the things according to your code to sign off on. And so you're, pulling the book out, you're going through your code, you're saying, yes, this, no, that, yes, you have everything, your application's in good order. All of these things that come with the requirements, your minor partition, they have all the steps that you have to go through. like the utility application, it's just really a jurisdictional sign off. So if I suggested $50, does that sound for the utility application? Does that sound like too much or not enough or?
I would like to suggest 100. Because I know what it really, I mean, what Triangle and these other places, I mean, it's. And then if you don't get the stuff done, you have to get it.
Yeah,
You don't get it down in a year.
Yeah.
You have to go repurchase it also.
So it is time sensitive.
Yeah, they do kind of sensitive on their, both permits or application or what, so. It is, you just can't sit on it either. And
Okay,
for the work you put into it.
so for like the land use fees, what do you guys feel like a percentage or a flat rate? Because
Do you know the last time when this was
1986,
1986 is when all these fees were enacted?
correct.
That's almost as old as me. It's kind of like, you know, after sitting on water for so long, you just rip the back, I'd say $150 across the board.
Whatever it is, but 100 each. And don't get me wrong, because I don't, one day I want to do something too here, but it's like.
I mean, I mean,
What it is.
even though we're-
what's better.
and like the clerk can attest to how much it takes to do each one of these. And to me, the city should not be
Losing money.
losing money on, that's not good.
When other cities are,
Making.
yeah, it's not only making, but keystoning.
So I think that is at a good point. It's $100 across the board would,
Increase or just,
$100 on, add 100 to all the $30 fee. So
so
130, whatever it's. 100 every fee, up at $100 every fee.
so the deposits though, those are the things that it probably should be way up because your engineer, that takes a lot of money.
Well, that hasn't been updated in 40 years. I would say triple the deposit. I mean, you're looking at $300 for a deposit.
Well, I mean, $300, yes, but at the same time, it's a deposit. So.
Well, it says it pays for engineering, legal reviews, or both if necessary. And that the applicant will be charged actual cost of the review after that. So if it costs more, you're still gonna charge actual cost,
But every top was big portion of the deposit back.
the deposit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like. For our local buildings that we said. That was, Holly. And what it was. It was a 8.5 by 11. It had a line drawing. It had 4 south, east, west.
What's the scale? Wasn't the scale?
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't in color. So it was, but this was like, and basically nothing else on it. You know?
For your site plan.
But we ended up having to go through the engineer and the engineer for having that done, wasn't done to be a process. Because we had to have.
So I guess we'll put that on our agenda for approval
Well, I know, but I need to get an idea, like, because what she's saying is like $2,000 doesn't. It's nowhere near any of this, but that's a sketch plan, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sketch plans will accompany your DEQ pages, and so if somebody wants a septic, they still have to provide
of.
the sketch plan. And if somebody wants to do even a minor partition, you know, you have to have a sketch plan, you have to have a sketch plan for everything. And you can't just, you know, if you want to build a shed, that was the other thing. If you wanted to build a shed, you can't just, you know, send me copies of the shed that you want to put up, you know, has to. You have to have dimensions and that. So that sketch plan review can take quite a bit of time because you're looking at a lot of code, you're crunching a lot of numbers, doing a lot of, you know, making sure that your setbacks are good, that you have, you know, enough side yard or backyard or square footage or floodplain or what have you. I'm not,
So, actually, doesn't even
probably not,
bring us,
Should be.
probably not.
so if we raise the fee to 300, add 300 instead of 100, and then triple the deposit for each item that requires a deposit. Because the deposit, it says that they're, if it runs over their deposit, they're liable for the cost, so
Yes,
the deposit is just like, you got something, yeah, because you're not, if they don't pay out. Well, let's say they go over their deposit. How if they say, well, I'm not gonna pay the rest of it. And then if it,
well, and this says at the bottom, you know, the combined fee, if you have 2 or more applications, that it's 75% of the. And we don't have to do that.
I wouldn't buy that altogether. Because it's like you're getting a deal, you know, because you're gonna have, if you're doing, most likely, you're gonna have to have 2 fees involved in one action that you take.
Okay, so
So I would say 300 on top of every fee and triple the deposit.
I'll make a suggestion, when you use the word application, put a / permit. Add the word permit someone that description.
I actually wasn't, I did have a question or. I guess. Yeah, I wonder why we have. Application versus permits. Yeah,
We don't issue permits. Like,
but that's what she did, she is, and but so we clerk it, you know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't see.
I do an application to request it. That's why I was confused, you know, so in a way, maybe we should look into that.
Yeah.
You're saying.
The land use application / permit.
giving,
so there-
yeah, so
Like
probably,
the city, you to do permits. But someone my paperwork, the city used to do permits.
well, there was a paper that you would write on and you would get a receipt, you know, the yellow copy on the back, kind of like the DEQ one. And that was kind of your permit. And so I can look at that, or however it gets printed, you know, like the box around, you know, the stamp, the whatever, you know, saying, yes, go ahead for this amount of time or what have you. So what I've been doing for people that are reserving the park, because that is a permit, is to print it on like cardstock and saying like, yes, this is your authorized day to go ahead. Instead of, you know. So that there is a permit, at least for that, so I can look into creating actually, you know.
So moving forward with the increase in the fees, if council approves at our next meeting, what if somebody is halfway between a project? And they need another permit in their project, do they get grandfathered in at the old fee or do they have to pay the new fee?
I don't have anybody.
You don't see anybody that's gonna need another permit for what they're doing.
There isn't anybody right now that is doing, I have people that are getting ready to do things. But
But nobody's like in limbo.
No.
Like I just want to get clarification if we did have somebody that, you know, they got a permit, but they're gonna need another permit to finish for
I
the
would,
second
I would
permit.
give them the greatest benefit of the situation.
And I would agree that that should be like grandfather type, where you already started this process.
Yeah, but I don't have anybody right this very second.
Anybody who hasn't acted on it by now, you could be talking. But that's like,
But I mean, you look at it though, and like. Patty, $2,000 for a sketch plan, where ours is gonna be like 330 bucks for the same thing. You're in Fossil, big deal. You're in Mitchell, big deal. I mean, like Ken said, you know, you go to Pineville. I mean, yes, we're not Pineville. Yes, we're not Fossil. We're our own city. And that's still, after you take the cost of getting that permit done, you might be pocketing a little bit of money for the city. And that's, you know, that's gonna be a lot better than losing money each time. And you know what, maybe we address these fees in another year, you know, because they haven't been addressed in 36 years, 37 years. So, you know, maybe we try to make a note of if the council does agree to raise these fees, then we kind of look at it, you know, it'll give us time to see where everybody else at, or who knows, maybe we have an urban growth by that time, and then we're gonna be like, oh, wow, we really need to raise these fees because we're having, you know, all of a sudden we incorporated some land somewhere somehow that the clerk will be inundated with numerous things to do, so. You know, and even if these rates, we're still gonna be behind, but it's progress moving forward. Hopefully, we aren't losing money anymore at that rate. So, that's all for land use, I believe. Or do you have anything else?
That's it.
Community hall rental fees. Part of, the idea of doing this renovation was to encourage people to rent our community hall with the upgrades, with everything that's been done. And with the upgrades, even though we did get money from a grant or a fund, we need to possibly look at increasing our fee for rental of this hall. It is quite a bit more user friendly as it is right now. You don't need to come in, you don't need to start a fire, you don't, you know, we have brand new, almost commercial grade equipment where you don't need to worry about a burner not working. The oven, you got. So what is our fee now for downstairs? Kitchen and
$50 with the kitchen, 75. $50 upstairs.
so it's 75 for the kitchen, this whole area and the kitchen.
Yep.
125 for the whole building.
Yep.
I just reserved a place in Portland to a friend that is the Elks Club member. And I think $350. For just the one for it.
anybody, if you raise it too high, you won't get anybody to build.
And yes, that also, I mean, that's part of the reason why there's not as much rental in the. As we would like already in here. But when we raised the fee before, where it was like $10 or $15 to rent this place. And the community just went, oh, no, there's absolutely no, we'll just go have it at our house, we're gonna have it at the church, we're gonna do it here, there.
Well, that's fine because then you're not paying electricity in that, you know.
And what it was is when we got rid of raise those rates, that was part of it. It's like it costs so many, costs more money to have the electricity. It costs more money to have somebody come down here, the city clerk, come down here and open things up and make sure that things were taken care of before they got here, started their project, party or whatever. And then the city clerk also was the one that had to lock everything up and be the one to check everything out to make sure everything was clean before they left. But they got any kind of deposit back. So that was their reason why we raised those. And then the community said, no, that's just way too much.
Well, I guess one of the things. I guess, actually. Kind of hard to go off of because it just now got. Finished. And so it hasn't even really had a chance to. Be put out there. for
Right, we
people that
haven't
really
been able
need
to
it.
like post pictures.
We still have to do the countertops,
Right,
so.
countertops are hopefully gonna get done next. But I think with a outreach program of, you know, showing what it is now. And
That would help.
let people know that, you know, besides the people that do know, it would give a broader outreach of what we're, you know,
Or maybe,
look what we have now with the price, and I know there's been discussion of lifting the alcohol ban, but then you're looking at a whole different avenue of because 9 times out of 10, being that you can't have alcohol in here, everybody would go outside and
has
drink.
it, have we brought up about, you know, like a community hall reopening? Technically,
Like a ribbon cutting, breaking type
Yeah.
of.
to the community.
Well,
Whatever.
I don't know that that even makes sense considering the status of the upstairs. I mean,
Right.
with that, it's falling apart. We,
Oh, just look downstairs.
well, no, I know, but could you imagine a ribbon cutting and then in 2 or 3 months, the structural engineer comes in and says, we have to condemn it and close it.
I mean,
I'm sorry to bring logic to the,
Right, because we,
So then technically, then we shouldn't even be entertaining the thought of raising the price, because how can we raise the rent when we could possibly be condemned?
well, because we're still, up until now, we're still using it and it's still costing money.
But if it's not up to standards, if we're not willing enough to open and say, hey, community, come and look at it. Because upstairs, because of engineering issues, then we shouldn't be, I feel that we shouldn't be trying to raise any prices for people either, because it's not, we don't know where. we're at.
So you're saying that we should just keep encouraging people to rent it and then just paying the bills for it?
Until we find out the structural integrity of the building. Because sounds like, I mean, that sounds like what we need to figure out first, because honestly, should we even be renting it out? If it's.
Then why are we all sitting in it? You know what I mean?
That's where I'm at. No,
You know?
no, that's where we're bringing that point to.
Yeah.
right, I don't
So
think the building is in
condemning.
the right, CIS, when they were here, they looked at it and they said they strongly advised for us to get a structural engineer to check the integrity of the building.
So, but right now, all you're paying for, they're getting the building for free, basically, because by the time you pay somebody to open it, close it, take the garbage out, make sure it's clean, or clean up after people, your fee is long gone. So, I mean, you're just basically giving it away. And so you're paying for people to use it. So really, you shouldn't just be rented out at all.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
should be okay.
Are you still, if, I don't know if there ever was, is there still reduced fees for nonprofits now? Are they else gonna have to pay this new rate?
Who?
The Lions Club, they have to pay this new rate to use the building? Or, you know?
I don't know. It's up to you guys
Well, I
because
know, but I mean, didn't we have a reduced fee or no fee for nonprofit?
no, because they were providing the wood. And because we got rid of the wood, one, they're older and providing wood, wasn't a. So they were providing wood in exchange for a reduced $25 use a month, use per. What, it's a month because they only meet once a month, but if they were to have their dinner and that, it would be an extra
So
charge.
if we raise the fees, I'll have to pay the fees.
I don't know. You guys could say everybody accept them, you know, because we get other people, we get, you know, places like Watershed wants to meet, you know, you'll have other organizations that, you know, need to meet residents here, like Cape Co. Is Cape Co nonprofit? I mean, then you're saying that they should get a reduced fee. I don't know.
Well, the hopes of with the upgrades that we've done, you know, you have a monitor, you can do presentation. I totally understand what you're saying. Is we could possibly be worried about raising a fee for a building that we won't be able to use, but in the meantime, until I think we need to continue on as we're going until we're told we can't. I mean,
Okay, so that brings us back to what we were talking about. The raising,
raising,
but yet we can't open it upstairs, but we don't want to do opening. But we want to raise the.
well, I would be more comfortable doing an opening after everything's 100% done. Because you don't want to advertise this grand opening, people are like,
Look at the counter.
countertops from the 60s.
That's right. That's right.
But that's not saying that somebody like the Watershed Committee can't come in here and do their presentation. And right now, if they're rented for $75, we're gonna be losing money. So in the interim basis of whatever happens upstairs,
I mean, you're getting a screen now, you're getting the capability of,
Now, they're using everything we have yet.
because at $75, we didn't have. I mean, basically all you have to do now is come in, plug in your laptop and you're ready to roll.
you could do PowerPoint and all of that. So I mean, when somebody rents it, they're getting everything. They're getting the use of the refrigerator.
And you don't need to bring your own monitor, your roll-up screen, or your projector, your 8mm.
The giant post-it.
The giant post-it note. I've never seen a post-it note that big.
What the-
What are we at, 75 downstairs?
75 with the kitchen. So it's $50 out here, $25 for the kitchen, $50 upstairs. So if you want the whole building, it's 125 plus deposit.
So we bump it up $25
Sorry,
each. Is that,
something to think about. Well, I can put a proposal out there. You guys can either, you know, make the motion to approve it or adjust it or reject it. How about that?
If you, yeah.
Okay.
And then we can.
Should be. There's minimum for up annual, you know, $25 up, $25 down.
$25 across the board
Oh, I see.
each?
For each section.
Yes.
Or maybe cut my deal if they rent the whole building. I don't know.
I'll come up with something.
And then, you know, and then for the.
So while we're on the topic too, so when Painted Hills Festival does their permit, they just get the building for free. And that's. I didn't know that, but is that okay with you guys?
The little boat show. Is
Oh.
that just upstairs or?
It's upstairs, downstairs, and they occupy it for what, 2 days?
They don't use the kitchen.
day before, they, said, take it.
I just kind of want to know the consensus so that coming this year, if I say, you need an application to rent the hall, that I,
I don't see making any exceptions. Yeah, you can't make it for the lines, you can't make it for anyone. Make a non-profit.
Because that's what we've been trying to cut back on also. Is the. Giving, too much
Free stuff.
free stuff,
Trying to stop the bleeding.
right? And I think they do good enough to where they can. Give the city.
Now, the Canaan Hill Festival, which was originally set up to help merchants in this community. It used to be all up and down the main streets.
Yeah,
Then they gravitated and went to the park and did everything at the park and. The community gets the bleed off from it. But it was all, they changed and definitely.
I feel everybody can be, we should provide a copy,
okay, so. Okay.
Yep.
All right,
We're hammering down,
Per
we'll
proposal.
get everybody now.
well, I'll put it out there early so that there's time to get our head around it,
Real quick, please.
yeah. This is,
Input from the community.
because last year I didn't get the insurance until 2 days before the event. When you're supposed to have the stuff 2 months prior, so that you can start making sure everything is together. And a lot of the sign offs and that, I didn't even get the permit printed until the day before, because I didn't have everything, so. And trying to start a lot earlier this year, okay.
Okay. So, redevelop community development funds. This is to, being that, well, I guess this will fall under committee position updates because we've lost 2 of the committee members from the community development committee. No contact whatsoever, so they will be removed from that committee meeting at our council meeting. Rebuild our community development funds. I believe the fire chief had asked for a dollar amount to put a addition on the fire hall. That was 8 months ago. 7, 8 months ago, we haven't had a single proposal. And Kathy, I believe you sent me an email about even if we could add on to that, being that it was done with a
Yeah, building with creative grant.
with a grant, so. Basically, being said there is 0 communication and 0 things have been brought to. The council, to the city for that expansion, we need to reevaluate where that money would be going. What other items are there to reevaluate?
Are we talking about that 20,000 or are we just?
Yeah, I mean, there's been 0 contact on it.
Right, so are we talking about it? Or are we just gonna say it? I don't know how to give a proposal for you to pass if you don't talk about it.
So we want to reevaluate it as in like trying to move and use the money in a different spot then? I mean, still with community development, but as in.
Right, because we allocated
And
portions of that money for different
Right.
things
in
in the hopes of spurring these items to get done. These items are not being done, so we need to take it, reevaluate how the money was broken up.
So again, are we talking about this 20,000 or are we talking about the whole fund?
We could group that a whole fund, just to have another, you need to have. Whoever's still on the community development committee, you need to have a meeting with them and then go forward then. I think it needs to be. I need some things that need to be discussed more. Within the whole fund.
Well, the only 2 people that are on the committee are him and I, so we're bringing it to you. what would you like to do with that $20,000? So, okay, 50, well, Delene is looking into the parks, and are you helping her with the park portion?
One of the teachers to go ahead and help with
Okay,
that, but I'll go ahead and just help with
okay, I didn't know, no, that's okay, if you're not, I just didn't know.
That's part-
The playground equipment, so what we found is that I think for about 46-ish. Is what we kind of looked at, you looked at playground equipment too, and it's super
Yeah,
expensive.
I got it all right here. 7.5 to.
And you got a lot of inflation too right now, but so you can get a basic structure, a pretty good structure for about 43, 46. But that doesn't account for the extra, the little rubber things for, yep, and the landscaping or what other extras that you can put in there that it encourages that interactive play, whether it's the big rocks. And I think she was gonna ask Jim Bob, or that brought the big rocks like at Tiger Town that the kids can play on. Maybe he would donate those. So it's a liability,
Yeah, kid falls and gets hurt.
but not the slide.
I mean, the whole park is a liability, period. It doesn't. I don't think it matters what we have there, but what we've been told that the existing equipment
It's dangerous.
is dangerous, even with the new updated equipment, there is a liability issue with no matter what we have down there. I understand your concern is a hard rock, somebody
Fall down and hit their head and die.
falling, doing something like that, but that can happen on any piece of equipment. And maybe there's other things we can look at outside of boulders, but like that kind of fits more into our
Atmosphere.
our geographic,
Big logs in that, if they don't roll over on kids, let's say, there's a way that you can, stake it to the ground, or that, logs, kids, just it's cheaper stuff that's still good play for kids and not, expensive playground equipment. I think you can do 43, 46, but you need to reallocate probably some other money, because we only allocated 50,000 for the park. 40,000 was unallocated. And we've used, quite a bit in Terrell and Sue, putting some of this stuff back together. I don't have the exact number on that. I will by council, but I did provide a spreadsheet for that meeting of what had been spent.
Yeah, I have a thing I threw up at home too. But we had extra expenses, like, we paid for the electricity, and we paid for this, the stuff that we approved. Later on that spent almost.
What?
When we added, we agreed to help with electricity costs, to help with the gravel by the stage, and help, that stuff that came out of the community development fund. That was not in the original amount.
Right.
when we did our initial allocation of money.
Yeah.
There was, I think, 40 something thousand that did.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit under 30. Yeah, all that little tiny stuff.
Right, but we also allocated for the side by side, additions up there. That hasn't been spent, that
Well, we haven't spent on the street like either.
we,
A lot of things we have spent on.
streetlights, we're not gonna buy new street lights. That's, have you seen the new street light down by the hospital? That is the new street lights that the power company is replacing. That's actually called a street light. The ones that we have are considered yard lights.
Seriously.
Seriously. So when one of these go out, they will come out and replace it with the LED streetlight that's down at the house. On their dime. So, I don't foresee them just coming out and swapping everything. And again, if we buy it, then we have to maintain it. Because the deal is we pay X amount per month, they come out, bulb goes out, they come out, they replace it, no cost.
So does anybody have a particular interest in me creating a proposal for any adding, 10,000 to the park maybe and start getting some contractor out here to,
Why to cover all bases, because I'd rather allocate money out and not spend part of it than not allocate enough out. What if you take it 20,000 from the fire department and take it down to, just an idea.
right,
No,
you
and
know,
Oh,
because it's,
take it 20, yeah, if we had 50 allocated, let's give the other 20 that was allocated for the fire thing. This is just an idea, not voting, not giving a bid, but take that and put it in the parks. And if we don't use that full amount, the 70, which we just jumping up to, fine.
Right.
But if we need that full 70, we want it.
and that's kind of the general consensus is that there's the money there. This is like, we're not gonna have this opportunity to do these developments. We don't know when. Our park is in dire need of updates. Kind of like everything in our town, unfortunately, needs to be updated, but I think that's a great suggestion is to take that money and give us the
Give the city of Mitchell a park that really needs one.
right, because
So that when that money gets, when it's all presented and all that, then the city and everybody's talking approved and go, wow, look what they did with that.
and Greg Smith, the representative Greg Smith, that's what he wants to see. You told him about what we did here. And he said, that's perfect. That's what I want to see. That's why the money was given was for things like this.
yep,
Yeah.
And
yep, you were on.
And for him to see us using the money in the way that he envisioned it to be used could possibly encourage future money, because he's gonna be like, wow, I give Mitchell got this money. They use it the way they didn't go out and buy
Water meters.
water meters. So and it does, Chris, I think you got your hand up first, or
Yeah.
Kathy?
What do we feel about, because we were just having a meeting earlier with Terrell and that the city truck may need to go bye-bye and maybe, instead of the side-by-side that, apparently we can't purchase or is becoming,
Illegal every use.
right, so then maybe we use those side-by-side funds to maybe purchase a city vehicle that is actually,
All-wheel drive and off-road.
well,
This vehicle up here has issues. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So maybe a vehicle, I don't know what that looks like, what it has on it. I just entertain the idea, and then also somewhere for Terrell to put his records and an office to work out of. So wherever that place is that you guys decide, because as it is, I don't know, we don't know where these records are. We're not storing water and maintenance records in a particular place. And maybe, having, where they are, I don't know, you'd have to ask where they are. So that's also something to consider. I think that would be money well spent if we were able to build off the same side that Glenn was planning on building off of and creating an office space, either creating a new city hall so it's bigger for all of my records, or creating something smaller where we're still sharing the same stored space upstairs with.
Could we? Within. The EMS building itself. Add on to,
Well, if you downsize the bay to the, I mean, if you downsize the fire trucks, you still have to put the green truck in there, right?
right, but like reconfigure the inside of,
Well, we had discussed that where if we would ask the ambulance and fire department to take their things out of that office and we could put a desk in there for Terrell, but we still have the record issue, it would be much less expensive if we did that and ask them to put their trading stuff in their office. And we could put a filing cabinet, inside that is Terrell's records. And, maybe shorten up the big, table that's in there to a smaller meeting table. I know it's probably not gonna go over very well with the ambulance or the fire, but I mean, this is a big space here that we can train here.
But look down here too.
Right, that's kind of what I'm saying. So, maybe if we could ask them to move their stuff and, purchasing a desk and locking up my records upstairs would be a lot cheaper option than creating a new office, but it would be.
So is the fire chief's office, is he using that at all?
I've seen him there one time since I've worked there. So I can't tell you, I don't know.
Within all the ambulance, so, because I just don't understand, I just don't know. So the ambulance association, they keep all their stuff in the office right there.
My office, they have some stuff in the fire chief that is medicine and that's locked up. And then their training stuff and filing cabinet is in City Hall. So there is enough room for them to move those things in, because the printer, and they got my old printer, so they've got what they need to where they can actually use their own office. And if they need a training space, then maybe they can come down here and we can shorten up that middle table to where maybe it's a round table with like maybe 6 chairs instead of 12 or whatever it is we got in there. And, but a huge cleanup effort would be super great because we've got stuff upstairs that it just keeps hanging around. And, turnouts that are like this deep and this wide that, I mean, I don't, they're outdated. And so it's just, kind of cleaning things up. But if we're going to do that, we had talked about painting this last winter and putting that different carpet or whatever. It would be super cheap, a lot cheaper than building a new office space. If we painted different flooring, reconfigure that office and just let those folks have the office they already have. You guys have thoughts about that?
I think we better get down to relinquish that, the office area. Otherwise, building onto a building that we may not be able to build on. So the 20,000 was for a proposal, was for a shed, not an add-on to the building.
Well,
And I don't know if we can add to the building because I said it was made with a grant to the fire EMS.
so if we bought one of those sheds down there, then it doesn't have electrical, it doesn't have sheetrock or flooring. It's by the,
Well, it had a wood floor, but
well,
right, but then
it has to be, it's a government building essentially, so it has to be, compatible for handicapped people. And I mean, there's a bunch of other things that goes into. You can't just say there's a shed, there's a little hole in the wall or, go live your space in there. So it has to be comfortable to work in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you could convert one of those, but you'd have to hire somebody to put the electrical in, and then you're gonna have to sheetrock and put a power pole, so. But the reason why I came with the lean-to kind of idea off the building was because another person in the community is trying to do that similar thing. And I've already talked to the floodplain manager because this person was in the floodplain. And they gave me, it's called an accessory building. And it is under a different code. If you make it separate from the building, then it is a building. It's not an accessory.
Total stuff.
So we're in agreement of looking at.
Clean up. Yeah,
Clean up and
reorganize,
reorganizing.
put people where we want. Using offices that we already have there also, I think would be.
That would be the way to go.
idea.
They're actually using.
And if you're not utilizing it. You hire chief, whoever, then you're, I guess, lose it. I guess you really can't use it, but
No, but
you gotta do something. You just can't say I want to be inside another place when you're utilizing.
Well, yeah.
Your own
spot.
I think going this would afford Terrell to have a desk where he has a place to work at, because I've
Right now, he's working at the door.
had discussions with him or with the increased hours for Sue is try to let him do more of the administrative paperwork side of that portion of, you know, the water master, the three things that he does have, so.
Oh, do one time.
We're doing fine.
Okay, I just don't want to forget time.
6:05. So, other sources of adjustment, I am not 100% sure what that is in tone. We'll take a time out.
Can you hear me?
I believe I have two ends going to wall. That was my favorite. One to do.
I got food in the car. Okay, look, myself on the right.
Yes, they do.
We are looking at getting a structural engineer out here soon. Because we want answers before we.
Oh, yeah.
Put the more into.
you know. So we're hoping maybe by May, we know where we're at. I wasn't sure what the other sources of adjustment,
Just if anybody had anything else, if. Just
like
like
revenue sources.
revenue
or
sources or any
other types of,
comments.
Um, call from Nick Green. And he's the gentleman that used to be the city planner over in John Day. He has started a new agency. And he called me the other day and he was so excited, Abby, we got it, we got it, we got it. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, we got the funding for this. What it is his organization is going to be a group that will cater to small communities just like us, smaller cities, 100,000 or less. And what they'll be like a planning commission. They'll be the people, if we need or want a grant, they'll be the people who will be able to go ahead and hire and do the, do the grant work.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and send it to the city to Krista. You can go ahead and send it out to everybody else. If you go ahead and take a look at what it is this has been. His organization has been now approved through the governor's office to go ahead and be able to do this. He told me that, I think it was the city of, he said Burns had just adopted it. And what it is you've got a paper, a proposal out we go ahead and adopt this through our city charter or through our city here. And they'll be able to be the planning commission for us. They'll be able to be the grant writers for us. They'll be able to do all these other services to go ahead and line things out, like what we'd like to do with the land acquisition up here. He said they'll be the ones that'll be able to go ahead and get and do all that as well as the funding. So make sure that Krista gets this and we can all read this, because of course it has to be approved through city council.
Yeah, I just,
But
well, and you, sorry.
No,
Will it
go ahead.
include them doing this?
I believe that what it is, I read through the thing that he had, and I don't think that it had any charges for the city of Mitchell. But what I did is I read through it quick. I didn't see any dollar signs. I didn't see any, any numbers that had decimal points to it or anything like that. So,
Yeah, if you kind of help solidify that.
Well,
That's-
let's read it when she passes it out and then we can kind of go from there and.
But yeah, I mean, he called me on the road and was so excited that it finally had gotten, that it's gotten approved to the governor's office. And he was like, you're the first person I'm calling to let you know this. So, I think that it would be a good thing, but I'd like everybody else to go ahead and take a look at it. And, maybe we can take a look at it in our agenda for our April meeting. Maybe we can look at it. And then maybe we can go ahead and vote on it or whatever in May and decide whether we really think that that's gonna be good for the city, and we can go ahead and go on with it. But I myself have been trying to look for different places at different organizations to go ahead and do these things for us, because we're not gonna be able to. And when I had lunch with him that month and a half ago, he was the one that was like, yeah, I think that we're gonna be able to help you guys out. I think we're gonna be able to help you guys out. And fund it. So.
I need to cut you short. We have like maybe 20 minutes if that before Lions Club gets here,
Yep.
so. Job descriptions.
Structure of employees and volunteers.
Hmm.
Do you want to pull up the job description?
Well, you did not get the one back from Terrell, so.
Well, that's happening later.
Sure, for his job description.
Well, he was supposed to look at it and, for its accuracy. Do you do these things? Is there other things that you don't, do you have his, is that what?
Where his job description.
Oh,
One after one, or
I think all of them. So I put some various ones out there. I've put the fire chief. We don't have one that I can see. Spray does theirs by resolution. It just kind of indicates, what the general duties are. You can go, obviously you need some input, but without him responding to anything, it gets very difficult to get input or what have you. So I don't know, we should have a job description for a fire chief, even if it's volunteer. So if somebody's interested, they can say, yeah, I'm interested. And you can go, okay, here's the job description. Now, do you think you can do these things?
this is a volunteer position, I would just do responsibility required, that on the job.
Well,
Job assumes you're getting paid.
no.
Volunteer.
I mean,
It would be more responsibility than it would be job like that.
okay, responsibilities. But that doesn't negate the responsibility that you have while holding that position.
Right, because right now, there is nothing in place that is actionable to where, like,
Home to council.
as an employee, you're not doing a function of your job. You can have written, oral, written, all those types of right now, there's nothing that says that we can. Except in our, he has to, the fire chief is required to attend council. That's the only thing that is written where he can be.
I think Greg Castleberry came up with some general things, but so for example, your emergency plan, it has not been updated, and in there, it says that, we're all supposed to be trained on what to do. And let's say there's a flood right now and you all gotta, do something, convene, make decisions, what is everybody's roles and responsibilities during an emergency, even if it's administrative, or it names people that are no longer are alive, and who calls, and now that you have dispatch, there's a lot of different things. And so it would be great to update it, but, with somebody that has, input on what actually makes sense for us. So in CIS's risk assessment and their protocols, everybody figuring out what your jobs are, everybody's roles, responsibilities, so we can stay in our own lanes and be respectful of people that have, the job. If we don't have up-to-date job descriptions, we don't know who's doing what.
We're going to contact. Up to the head.
Thank you. Speaking of CIS, we're supposed to pick a point person for CIS.
Contact.
Who is the contact for the risk?
And we have to do that at council. But
Well,
We could probably throw it on air. right
it's just,
now.
yeah, if you want to throw it out, I can put it on the agenda to, but this person is going to be in charge of making sure everybody's getting their training done, be the contact person for, what needs to come down next, or, you're managing all of the moving parts of CIS.
Well,
I'm not ready, right? I want to say yes. But honestly, I'm not ready.
That's okay.
I could do it. I'm retired.
Yeah, I don't have the time either.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be a backup. I'd be more, I'd be useful as a backup.
We'll have to vote on this next
But-
month's meeting.
You'll all be on the list.
Yeah, we'll all be back up.
well, and you have to be very sensitive of when you do send out an email. Everybody needs to understand that it's informational, it's not being for discussion. If it needs to be discussed, it needs to be brought into either the work session or our meeting, because that's why my initial thought would be the clerk, but the clerk's so inundated already with budget and everything else that we all need to make sure not to create ongoing conversations within an informational email. So means that we're only missing one counselor present. At the meeting, if it does get approved, I will make the announcement that whatever you send out is not for a reply, it's information. Unless you do need a reply, it will be brought to a work session.
Yeah. Need if there was information brought to me or assigned to me or whatever from CIS. If there was anything that had to go to all the counselors, then.
That makes sense, actually. That does make, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just, kind of make sure that it limits the ongoing email threads that we need to limit.
Yeah.
I watched my hands, that's.
So there's we don't necessarily have anything for ambulance either. I'm putting this up here because I know mine specifically, because I can speak to that, does not reflect my duties. This was, revised, you can see 8/17/21.
And the reason why that was revised to look like that was, the idea was to. That was be put out with saying being retiring. Because the actual job description is 4 pages long, I believe,
That's the one I got.
3 or
That's
4
what- yeah.
pages long, where this one. I don't feel comfortable if it ever did have to go out with that wording because it's misleading.
Yeah.
It was done in an attempt to make it easily understandable and. I'm not saying it was put out for under false
It
pretense.
definitely was. It definitely was.
So it does need to be updated where. If it does go out for. A job opening, where if it needs to be, whoever it needs to be put back.
Well, not only that, but you actually get points to becoming a certified municipal clerk. You get points based off of your job duties. And if you have exactly what it is that you are doing, it shows that you're doing what you're actually doing instead of, because when I give them this, it doesn't look like I do a whole lot. And I try to include the extra things and she says you have to have one. Huh?
Yeah.
I know, but that's not the one that was approved by council. So what I guess what I'm suggesting is I would like to redo my job description, bring it to you for approval. And I think we need to reevaluate supervisory roles.
Then we can also it's not just
Right.
There's a city manager, something like that, because a lot of things that are required on the job, and this job description is one of it. And this means,
I know, pretty quick.
this would have much more to it than the one that changed.
Well, and the one Susie had, it specifically had city administration and in 2 pages of that. So I guess what I'm going to propose is that you do a city clerk / city administrator. The city administrator still gives council that authority to hire and fire, where a city manager would hire on their own and fire on their own. So the city administrator would then work with the council for those things, so that you're still doing, the overseeing of, your planning and your water and your hiring. In fact, you still have all of that same authority. You're not doing it by charter. I did check with Jared. He said that this is acceptable for a city administrator, so. It cleans up the lines a lot. Oh, shoot. Committee positions. So that's kind of with those job descriptions. I feel like if we had job descriptions for a committee, that you could put it out to the public, it's kind of like budget, here's the things, that any, you don't have to have somebody within the city on a committee.
So today on the radio, actually, Ben, that's how they're putting their stuff for city council and whatnot for their committees. And it was on the radio saying Ben's looking for all the committees that were Housing Committee, these different rural coding, zoning changing committees, and it was on the radio. I'm very surprised that you're like, no, just being on the radio.
It kind of caught your attention.
Yeah, it did.
It's like, oh, that's a great. Because right now, the only committee that we have a formed committee is the water board.
Well, and
For advertisement. to just our general public to get it back out to people's ears here in our town.
Right, because we,
You know, maybe you want it, could put it in your newspaper. City papers. Committees.
committee positions and
Yes.
like a required,
Because it doesn't make sense to me to have. Just the council members being on committees and.
right, we
because it
need,
brings
we
it
need
back
the
just to make
community,
it
Yeah.
necessary.
yes. That way it doesn't, I mean, yes, it is the council's ultimate decision to enact whatever a committee does come up with. But we need community
Yeah.
input from the committee. Where it doesn't look like it's the council just saying, well, you know, this is the way it's gonna be. It would be nice to have. Community, you know, members
Well, here-
bringing ideas.
sorry,
Yeah, I would kind of advertise, kind of label that as your responsibilities when you join a committee. That's how I would kind of title it. You know, more of a, if you join a committee, you like, this is what you're responsible to do on it.
And this is kind of like your expectation is to,
Yeah,
you know, be involved, you know, monthly meetings, you know, things like that. That's the only committee that we really know that's formed, even though they don't meet regularly.
well,
Right.
the issue it too is that everybody's experiencing the same thing. You hear this at the conferences and that volunteering is down, so much than it was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. People are just not volunteering, we're not fostering that, idea somewhere. I don't know if it's in our school system or whatever, but people just aren't volunteering. They're trying to survive right now. And so by, maybe writing a really nice descriptive, why, why you should join, and be a part, make decisions. So, if there's other people that are outside of the city, maybe there are other interested people in tourism, maybe the Bonnie Loftons of, for tourism, or I'm just, bringing up examples of people that are doing things that, are outside of the city, but still play a part of tourism, or help make decisions that, because the shopping and that affects, her people too, so. And then maybe when we, get it all, straightened out and it's either that or just abolish all the committees, and I don't necessarily want to see that, but I don't.
But we do need committees and we need to have formed committees and make do.
But we need minutes for these committees
Right,
too. That wasn't being done. We need minutes for committees, so that they can bring that back to the council and report, so the advertising especially was one person kind of giving down orders instead of it being a group effort, because so it was a larger group, but it just kind of dwindled and dwindled to where it was just one person making decisions. And then that's not a committee. So if we can't get people, then I would just suggest not having any except the water board and then just putting it all to the council.
That's something that we need to have to get out there some ways,
I'm probably not going to have that done like this month because there's, but I just want to have it, kind of talked about so that maybe over the next couple of months, maybe if somebody finds something that they thought was interesting, a little tidbit on a committee or, call and ask a city, hey, can you send me over a job description? Because usually another city will have an application process. And I'm not saying we have to do that. I'm just explaining. They'll have an application. I want to be on, budget committee, and they fill out the application and the person like the mayor or over a manager or something would go over that application and they go, okay, well, just kind of like hiring for a job, do you understand that, the responsibilities of the job? And then they go, well, maybe after talking to them, they go, yeah, maybe that's, not really up my alley, but you don't want to lose the people either. And you say, well, I have this other committee. It sounds like maybe you would be interested in, tourism or something like that. What do you think about that? So But you can't do that if you don't have job descriptions.
Right, and it hopefully it encourages people in our community or even outside of our community to want to be a part of, you know, helping time. Okay, it is 6:29. I will close this meeting or work session on from April 4th. Thank you for attending.
Thank you very much.